You're on, Nicole. You can go ahead. Hi, Nicole. So you're live. You can start.
Awesome. Have you already shown the video? I wasn't sure. I didn't see it on my end.
Yes, yes, yes. So you
All
can
right,
be.
perfect.
All right.
All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. Let's see. All right. Okay, so I am, and Tosin, can you monitor the comments for me? Because I am lacking my second screen. It just flunked out on me. So I am going to walk through the presentation, talk to you all a little bit about creating non-client facing workflows in your firm. So this is a workshop. And we're going to talk about the objectives and exactly what we're going to be doing for the next 35 minutes. I'm Nicole Davis. I am a wife of one, mom to five, and CPA to many. I have several companies, Butler-Davis, BD Payroll, and Groundworks Contractors. My works have been featured in a number of publications, and you can find me on Twitter at WifeMomCPA100. All right, so today's objective. Now, again, this is a workshop, so it's definitely going to be hands-on. It's going to be interactive. So we're going to walk through a step-by-step process of creating workflows for other areas of your firm, like marketing, sales, prospecting, and hiring. Now, I know you're thinking, that's a lot. When Tosin sent me this, I thought it was a daunting task because that's a lot to cover in 30 minutes. However, then I stepped back and said, hey, there are common steps among most workflows, and we're going to talk about those. It's going to be hands-on. I hope it's practical for you and your firm. And I'm not going to be the only one talking. You're going to be talking as well, but you're going to be talking with your hands in the chat. So get your chat fingers ready and let's dive in. All right, step one, identify the areas that need workflows. So here, throughout the presentation, you're going to see worksheets that you can make notes on, that you can follow on the presentation. And also there's a cheat code on each worksheet that I'm asking you to complete. The cheat code is there to help you jog your memory, give you ideas on things you can include in the worksheet. And just because we don't have a lot of time, I didn't want you to have to think of things off the top of your head or have to sit long to work. So right now, write down your top 3 non-client facing areas of your firm or company. Put them in the chat as well so I can see them. And I'm going to talk through the 3 that I identified in my company. Oh, I'm not sure what just happened. So my top 3 non-client facing areas was marketing, hiring, and sales. So marketing, I would say that because we initially started niching in independent pharmacies, we didn't do any marketing. We mostly grew that side of the business through referrals. But over time, we realized that we were definitely not tapping into the market as much as we should. So our marketing game and started marketing more towards those independent pharmacies. And then we added construction services to our niche. And then, of course, service-based businesses. Hiring. I sucked at hiring. I started being in business almost 9 years now, and I would say the first 5 to 6 years I got hiring wrong, mainly because I didn't really have a good process or workflow in place. And then, of course, sales. Sales is something that we as accountants, as tax pros, we don't just get naturally. It requires some effort, some work, some workflows in order to make sure we get sales right. All right, so let's see. Toasty, any comments? Because I can't see the comments right now. Any comments about the 3 non-client facing areas that people are putting in the chat? All right, so I'm seeing a few. I got a few. I just quickly peeked over. I'm looking at my phone and my computer trying to keep up with the chat. All right, so step 2, define what you are trying to achieve. So that part is, what are my objectives? So I want you to choose one area from the first step and write it in your area that you're going to focus on. And I'm also going to talk about the area I'm going to focus on throughout the next few minutes. So cheat code, check your cheat code, because there are some ideas for you to choose areas that you may didn't think of, but you definitely want to focus on in order to build out those workflows. So my area is marketing. I chose marketing because, again, that's where we struggled the most, especially trying to reach our niche audience. And so for me, my objective was to create brand awareness by enhancing the firm's visibility on social media. So quickly, someone put in the chat what your objective is based on the one area you chose in step 1. What is that area? All right. Thank you all for adding to the chat. Next, step 3, create a visual representation of the workflow. Now, when you think about visual representation, think a picture is worth 1,000 words. So think of it as organized doodling on a napkin. It doesn't have to be formal. It doesn't have to be fancy. It can be as simple as, hey, you're going to jot down, or you're going to create what do you want the workflow to look like, and then you're going to put them in some visual representation. I like to use my Remarkable. In my Remarkable, there's a storyboards. So in the storyboards, I can draw what I'm envisioning in my head for the workflow. I can then make notes right under the storyboard. So you can use Publisher, you can use whatever workflow tool that allows you to draw the representation of the workflow in your head. Now, for this presentation, I did create a more formal one just because I wanted you to see like the flow of my thought process as far as marketing. And you also have a blank sheet. So I want you to take just a few minutes, few seconds, really, and go through the workflow here that I have designed and check your cheat code. And then use the action words identified in the cheat code to help you build out your workflow as I talk through the workflow I created for marketing. So in my marketing workflow, I have defined target audience. I have determined that unique value proposition, develop the content strategy, create content, publish the content, engage with the audience, track and measure effectiveness, and then, of course, adjust marketing outreach to achieve those stated objectives or your stated objective. Now, earlier I gave an objective. It was pretty broad. You can make your objective as specific as possible. For me, we could be targeting pharmacies, we could be targeting construction companies, but still the overall steps are the same, regardless of who we're targeting. However, it just depends on the change is going to be Where are they? How do they best receive information? How can we best connect with them? We'll talk a little bit more about that as we go through the rest of the slides. All right, once you had a chance to kind of jot in those keywords, and you don't have to fill it all in right now, just jot in a few keywords from your cheat code, and then we'll start going to the next section. So put in the comments some keywords that you're planning to use in the area you chose in step 1. Okay? All right. Now, this is going to be a little bit different just because it's not exactly how most would document and standardize their process. So let me quickly pull up my story for this part of the process. All right, step 4, document and standardize the process. You're going to write out your process in story format. Now, I know you're thinking, Nicole, why? Because usually a story format provides better clarity. It provides a narrative for your process with a beginning, a middle, and an end. So it allows you to tell your story, communicate that to your team or whoever's going to take on the process, and they're able to more easily digest the information and follow the steps as you have outlined. Usually, especially for non-client facing areas, usually these aren't going to be your technical professionals or your technical team members. So for them, if you write it out in a technical way, it may not easily translate for them. So you want to put it in story format. And then from that story format, you can outline steps that allow it to make the process easier to follow. So for me, my story was this when it came to marketing to pharmacies. So we knew we didn't have a huge presence on our social media platforms that were catering to our independent pharmacies. One, because pharmacists, if you know anything about pharmacy, they're stuck behind the counter many hours in a day. So for them, they don't have a lot of time for social media. So they weren't on Facebook. They're rarely on Instagram. However, every now and then, they'll get on Twitter because they like checking the news. And they also have professional profiles on LinkedIn. So those were the places that I wanted to focus my marketing efforts when I was targeting independent pharmacies. Next was content. Content was something that I was very insecure about when it came to pharmacies, mainly because I'm not a pharmacist. I've never worked in pharmacy. So for me, it was like, okay, how do I create content that's engaging, that is going to catch their attention, and also that's going to allow me to get the type of engagement I wanted from them back. So it was all about, okay, I worked with dozens of pharmacies over the years. I've learned the ins and outs of the operations. So I would say, let me check my email and just go through and see of my pharmacy clients what questions they have for me throughout the years that I was able to answer. So that's what I did. I just went through my email, found all the questions that they asked me throughout the years related to business, tax, bookkeeping, pharmacy operations, and I created content based on those questions. And with the help of Blake Oliver and his team, we created a series of pharmacy videos that we could then distribute on social media to target those eyeballs. So that is how we were able to create the workflow regarding marketing to independent pharmacies. All right, so let me see who out in the audience have ever used a story format to map out, document, and standardize your processes. Is that the first step you usually start with when you're documenting your process? You write it out in story format. Also, too, story formats allow you to find those nuances in the process. Many times when you document processes step by step, and I especially found this true in my firm, when you hand it over to someone to replicate, generally there are nuances or there are small details that you just don't include because it just comes so natural for you. So in your head, you know exactly what that detail is, but the next person that picks up that workflow or process, they do not. However, if you put it in story format, generally you're writing down even those small details because you're remembering it off the top of your head. You're doing the process in your head, and then you're documenting it as you go. And then you can take that story format and then put it in those step-by-step process format. All right, so now we're banging up against step 5, choosing the right tools. Now, there's nothing worse or nothing that threatens a workflow more than choosing the wrong tools. And I'm guilty of that. I've chosen the wrong tools plenty of times in my firm, then realizing that it wasn't the workflow or process, it was the tools I was choosing to implement the workflow or process. So for me, choosing tools about, okay, what do I need to ensure that the workflow I am documenting, the workflow that I want to standardize, is using the most effective tools to make my job easier, to make anyone else's job who's going to pick up this process later or work for later easier, easy to understand. It automates and streamlines the process as much as possible as well. So for me, choosing the right tool is like critical to ensuring that your processes and workflows work as they should. So here, use your cheat code. And on your cheat code, select the appropriate tools for the area you chose in step 1. And I'm going to read through this cheat code just because there is a lot right now. So there's workflow management software, automation software, content management systems, social media management, email marketing, communication, analytics, reporting, CRM, graphic design, keyword search, project collaborations. Like, there are many tools. And you'll notice here, I didn't include any vendor names or app names or software names. Because again, I don't want you to focus so much on the vendor or the app more than what you're trying to accomplish with that tool. So for instance, for marketing, I chose for workflow diagrams, I know I wanted something that was easy to use, that I was familiar with. So I chose the workflow diagram. I wrote down workflow diagrams. Then for social media management, I needed something for that. I needed, of course, social media handles. And then for graphic design tools, because we were going to create art that goes along with the videos and the Twitter posts related to marketing to independent pharmacies or the construction businesses, or even our service-based businesses. So again, write down what you're trying to accomplish and then identify the tools that you're going to need or buy to help you accomplish those those functions. So again, I chose Publisher because I'm so used to Publisher. They have a great workflow diagram that I've used many years. So for me, it was easy to easily create that workflow. The one I showed you earlier is actually created in Publisher. For social media management, we use Publer.com mainly because we got a lifetime subscription for it on AppSumo. So for us, Publer was a no-brainer as far as social media management. For social media, of course, we're targeting Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, because pharmacists and construction-based businesses are usually not on Facebook. Graphic design tools, I love using Canva. I use Canva for pretty much everything related to design in my firm. And then also think about tools that you may need to outsource. So we outsourced the video production part of it. So I had to create the content. I had to provide that to Blake and his team. And then we set up time to actually shoot all the videos. And then once all the videos were produced, we sent them, his team pretty much edited to them because I am not an editor, especially when it comes to video. I definitely rather outsource that part of the business. And then, so yeah, think of all the tools you're going to need to ensure that the objective you created for the area you chose is effective. All right, so what are some tools that everyone else is using when they're thinking about documenting workflows or creating the grand scheme around your objective or your area of focus? Just throw it in the chat. Let me know what you're using, how you're using it, if it's effective, if it's expensive. Some tools are quite expensive. Some are not so much. Sometimes you got to think about cost because If the cost outweighs the benefit, then it may not be the most appropriate tool. And this is why I want you to focus on the process, what you're trying to achieve versus the tool itself. So then you can find a tool that's going to be cost effective, it's going to get the job done, and it's going to be useful for your workflow. Okay? All right. We got about 9 more minutes. So hope I'm not talking too fast. I tend to talk really fast, especially when I get excited. So I'm going to slow down just a bit. We've got 2 more steps. And then we got Q&A. So I definitely want to answer the questions that you may have had throughout the process as we're working through our worksheets. All right, step 6, design checklists and templates. Now, I know this seems self-explanatory. I'm pretty sure a lot of you already have really great checklists in place, really great templates in place. So for me, you want to make sure that it's easy peasy checklists and templates. So on this worksheet, name your checklist, use your cheat code. And then here I also actually have vendors that have really awesome checklists and templates that you can create on the fly so that you don't have to create anything from scratch. So in my checklist, I'm going to talk about how I or a team member can take our workflow and post on Twitter or LinkedIn, whatever platform you choose, if marketing is one of your areas and you also have an objective of increasing your brand awareness through social media. So in my office, we use Microsoft Tags and Planner. We use it for a number of different things. We use it for client work. We use it for planning around internal meetings. We use it for internal meetings. We use the Teams feature. So it has really worked well for us, and that allows us to standardize a lot of our processes, have a consistent workflow for delivering upon client work, which is client facing. But also we use it when we build out our new client onboarding. We use it when we build out our hiring, when we're bringing on new team members, and also for sales. So for sales, it's definitely a little more involved just because no one in our company, except for the person we just hired to do sales, has ever done sales before. So for us, it's definitely more detailed, a lot more hands-on when it comes to that workflow. All right, so checklists and templates, marketing. So I'm going to talk about posting on Twitter. And this is a very simple checklist. Remember, we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. Don't overcomplicate it. So posting on Twitter, you want to compose a tweet with 280 characters or less, unless, of course, you're blue verified, then you can write until your fingers fall off. You want to add visuals or media. You want to mention or tag other accounts using the @ symbol and then selecting the account that you want to tag or mention. You want to use hashtags thoughtfully, meaning you want to make sure that the hashtag relates to the content that you're posting so that when others are researching that specific hashtag, your post is among the number. And of course, you want to review and proofread. I am notorious for sending out tweets with misspelled words, with grammar that makes it seem like I didn't learn English. And so for me, I love being blue verified just so I can go back and edit tweets. It's probably the main reason that I'm blue verified, because I'm not a wordy person, not really. And then, of course, schedule or post in real time. So you can schedule your tweets, especially with Butler. You can schedule them to go out the next day. You can do recurring scheduling. You can do, I want to say it's AI scheduling, where you tell Butler, hey, I want you to choose the best times of the day to send this tweet, and it lets you, and then it auto schedules based on what it thinks would be your most effective times to reach your target audience. And of course, you can post in real time. So a lot in real time. LinkedIn is not so much in real time because I definitely put a lot more, I'm definitely more intentional about posting on LinkedIn versus on Twitter. So checklists, what are you all using for your checklists and templates? I definitely want you to throw it in the chat for me so others can see and get other ideas on how they can create their checklists and their templates. All right. And then, of course, we're at our last step, and it's all about implementing T3. So, what is T3? I call it test, train, and tweak. Test, train, and tweak. In this part of the workflow, you're going to test the workflow. So before you fully implement it, you definitely want to test it, especially if you have any automations built into your workflow. So I learned early on that you just can't build something and then press go and think it's going to work properly if you don't test it. There are so many times where people say this doesn't work, and I'm like, it should, but I didn't test it, so I couldn't confirm it. So definitely test it before you actually go live with it or place it on a grand scale, so that you can identify any issues, any bottlenecks, and you can fix them before anyone else sees it. Then, of course, you want to train your team. So you want to train your team on the new workflow and the automation tools so they're comfortable with using it, right? And also, you want to train them so you don't have to keep doing it. So for me, it took a very long time for me to release control of a lot of our workflows and processes, because I felt that if I didn't do it, it wasn't going to get done right, which is not the attitude you should take, especially if you're building a business and a team. But of course, starting out, you want to hold on to things and you want to like baby them until like you're tired of doing it, or you get to where you don't have the capacity to do it anymore. And for me, it was a combination of both. So I started building a team. I started training them on the workflows that we needed and created so that they can own the process or the workflow. And I would just provide oversight or leadership. And then last, of course, you want to tweak the workflow. So sometimes tools change. Sometimes tools go out of business. Sometimes the process change or your objective may change. So that all requires a tweak to the workflow after you implemented it already. So tweak it. You can get feedback from your team members. You can get feedback from people that are actually part of the workflow, such as your software vendors, from your team, I said team members, stakeholders, anyone that's involved in the work, from your clients, your target audience. They're excellent providers of feedback whenever you have a workflow that directly impacts them or that they're involved in that process in some way. So T3, train, test, tweak. Test the workflow, train your team on the workflow, and then tweak the workflow to make sure that it's always a process of continuous improvement. All right, so now we have about 6 minutes, so a little more than 5 minutes, for additional questions and comments. And then make sure you start your free 14-day trial of Financial Sense. And thank you. So now I am going to go off screen and stop sharing because I want to see all the comments that you all are making that I didn't get to see. All right, so let's see. Questions. Definitely throw in some questions. I'm going to scroll back. Oh, good. Thank you. Oh, look at this. Are there any templates or resources you would recommend to help our team kickstart the process of mapping out common procedures? Hey, this is not going to sound sophisticated. Like I said, use a napkin, use paper. Definitely use something that you can jot it down initially, and then you can move it into a tool. Like for me, I love my Remarkable and they have templates in Remarkable that allow you to jot down, use the storyboard to first initially get it out. And then you can talk about, okay, now what tools can we make it more formal? So I say start simple. Start with paper and pencil. Start with a Remarkable tablet or any tablet that has writing features. What is the best way to start your story or avoid missing a crucial detail? I would say start your story by having a team member ask you the question, tell me about, and then have a conversation. Make it very conversational. It doesn't have to be, and think about telling it in a relaxed way. Don't think about saying all the right words. Don't think about like adding all the right tools. Just talk about your process, what it means for you to have marketing, what it looks like right now, what you want it to look like later. so that it just flows naturally. Again, you don't want to think too hard about it. You just want to just talk about it. Can't wait to hear about how to use this for prospecting. Woo, sales. Now listen, I could do like a whole seminar, a workshop on sales because I got it wrong a lot. But I would say, and I guess you could say prospecting as far as hiring and also prospecting as far as getting new clients. I got both of those wrong. So listen, I can do a webinar, a whole workshop on that as well. All right. How often do you post on Marina, I love that question. How often do you post on social media? So I have my personal brand and I also have my business brand. I probably post, most people probably think I post too much. Let's put it like that, because I post a lot. Generally on Twitter, I'm posting dozens of times a week, dozens, if not a day. And on my business side, we actually collaborate with we outsource part of that as well. So anything that's written by me is usually long format. Anything that has really nice graphics and is colors like the purple and the pink, that's usually outsourced by my social media team. So, and they're posting daily. I'm posting daily. So a lot. How do you track and measure the effectiveness? Great question. I definitely say you have to have some type of tracking tool in place. So for us, for instance, the videos we created with Blake Oliver and his team that we answer the questions of our pharmacists. We track that by the number of views, by the engagement, and then we adjusted our schedule based on the ones that had the most engagement. So we did an iteration of those posts because it gained the most traction. And then we rescheduled like several months later those videos that had the most engagement. And then we tracked and measured them again. Do you actually get clients to Twitter? Yes, but not necessarily the ones I want. I would say that. I am very, very picky about who I work with. So for me, we do get a lot of interest, but at the same time, we're not accepting every client that sends us interest. We're definitely very picky about who we work with, because if anybody knows me, they know that I like firing people, and I don't want to be in a habit of firing clients all the time. All right, what else? How do you focus on promoting your firm and not you through your social media posting? Is your goal to take on the work or pass it out to your staff? Josh, great question. So on my personal page, I rarely talk about how should I say this? I don't promote my business to get clients or anything. When I'm talking about social media, it's usually about what I'm doing in my firm, how I'm doing things right, how I'm doing things wrong. So it's definitely more so an introspection sort of. It's like my diary. I use Twitter like a diary a lot. That's why I overshare. So the goal is definitely to get more clients, but at the same time, we're not taking every client, and we want to make sure that the clients we take on, they're comfortable working with my team and not me, because I'm not doing the work. As a solopreneur right now, it's a little overwhelming with all the apps that everyone is mentioning. How can I do what needs to be done simply since I am just one person? Angela, I feel you on this. Mainly because when I started out, I also was by myself. So I had to, and this was around the time that the apps really started to gain traction. QuickBooks at the time, they had revamped their QBO offering. This was the time Xero entered the stage. FreshBooks was still an invoicing platform, but they also, so it was so many apps. So for me, I definitely took time out to see what problem I wanted to solve first before I chose the app I wanted to use. I say, what problems do you have right now that you need a solution for? And then find apps and compare those solutions. Do you have any workflow ideas in terms of team growth and collaboration? Team growth and collaboration. Let's see. Yes. So again, remember I mentioned earlier that I was really bad at hiring. So for me, team growth came down to, making sure I was hiring for the right seats. So the right person in the right seat. That's what it comes down to when you're hiring. You got to have the right person for the right seat. So for me, it was like how we use something called the A method for hiring. It's a book by Jeff Smart. In the book, it gives you a framework for hiring. And one of the first things it asks you to do is create a scorecard. And in the scorecard, it tells you, okay, what are you hiring for? Be very specific what the person should be doing, what their outcome looks like if they've done their job successfully, and then how they're going to work with the rest of the team or how they're going to add value to the company. So for me, I would say start with that book. It'll give you a great outline of how to hire and build your team. Do you use a tool to have your social media in a calendar organized and ready to be sent out? Yes, I use Poobler, Poobler.io. We use that for all our social media scheduling. It works absolutely great. And if you can find a lifetime subscription, buy it. All right, I think we have time for one more question. Do you have a way to weigh out internal versus hiring out things to do? Yes. I say if it doesn't bring you joy, outsource it. Thank you, Chantel. All right, Tosin, I think that's the last question. Thank you all for attending. I'm sorry that I couldn't read the chat and display at the same time. It was a lot going on. All right, she said I still have 5 minutes, y'all. So listen, my time is off. All right. Yes, how do you validate the effectiveness and the ROI? All right, so let me give you an example of one way we developed the effectiveness and ROI on one of our campaigns for marketing. So when we first started out, we wanted to get more tax clients, more specifically homeowners. So we built out a workflow to target specific homeowners in our area. And it did a couple of things. It brought brand awareness to our local community, and it also allowed us to bring our quality, what we consider quality clients. So in that workflow, we decided we were going to do a direct mail campaign. So of course we decided, okay, how do we get the verified homeowners? And we used, it was Info USA before they changed their name. I'm not sure, I don't recall what the name is right now. We bought a list from Info USA of verified homeowners. We targeted specific home values. We targeted specific demographics. And then we created a small magnet. We used Vistaprint to design this magnet that we can include in our letter to the homeowner so they can stick on the refrigerator. So we're always top of mind whenever they open the refrigerator. And over time, we got really, really good clients out of it. I got several accounting clients, and I wasn't targeting accounting clients at the time. I was targeting tax clients. So it's all, and then we measured that ROI by we asked any new client that came on board, how did you hear about us? And we have a lot of people saying, well, you sent me a letter in the mail congratulating me on buying a new home. And you gave me a magnet. So when tax time rolled around, you were the first one we thought about. Also, too, they were new to the area. They didn't have any ties with a tax pro already. So for us, it was reaching out to them first before they had the opportunities to research other tax professionals. And we were able to grow substantially just based on that campaign. And again, it was all about asking them, how did you hear about us? And then marking that the price they paid us versus the campaign, what we paid for the campaign. And I would say we always had a return on investment of 100% or more on whatever we did that campaign. How do you know where your target audience is? Hi, Shannon, great question. So you really got to study your target market. You really got to know what makes them tick. You have to have an ideal client profile. Like without that, you'll never know where your target audience is. So for instance, pharmacy clients. Pharmacy clients, I mentioned earlier, they always are behind that counter prescribing medications. So they have very little time to be on Facebook scrolling like we do. And so for me, it was, okay, where do they hang out? They mostly hang out in drug chat rooms or on vendor supplier chat rooms. So they really weren't on social media. And I couldn't go into vendor chat rooms or drug supplier chat room and talk to them. So, okay, what were their next most heavily trafficked places? And so I just began following a couple of my clients to see where they hung out. And then I decided, yeah, they like LinkedIn because most people like having a professional profile. And they also like Twitter because Twitter was initially sort of a way to get news. So those are how I found out where the pharmacy clients were. So study your client, create an ideal client profile, and then think like them. Like, okay, if I was a pharmacist, where would I hang out? Where can I target them? A book on hiring. Yes, it's called Who. I almost spelled that wrong. WHO. Who, the A Method for Hiring by Jeff Smart and I think Randy Street. Yes, someone put it in the chat as well. Yes, the name of the app is Poobler. It's the social media scheduling app. Thank you all so much for attending. I appreciate you.